Well, hello. Welcome back to We Drink and We Watch Things. I am Mackenzie.
I'm still Lemar.
Still, man, darn.
Still
Uh,
Lemar from the block. Oh, Jesus, that's hurtful.
I'm kidding. No, I'm excited actually. So today we are doing an Ask Me Anything episode, which I have already determined and we haven't even started. We need to do more of because these questions are great.
Yeah, the reason for that was we lost an episode last week. So,
Yeah.
just do you want to explain? The first question was literally, what were the technical difficulties?
Yeah, that's our list. First, ask me anything on the list. So we'll just start there, which is it was Lamar's fault. The
110%.
the
Yeah.
technical difficulties were Lamar, like, as a person was a
Mm-hmm.
technical difficulty, I think is I think that I think that about covers it, right? Like, anything
I don't
else
even
we
think
wanna
it's
share?
technical at this point. I think I'm just difficult.
There you go. I think we've covered
Oh,
it, right? So we're good.
we
Uh,
nailed it. Yeah, we had some recording issues with
yeah.
like the mics and whatnot, and it was either put out a sub quality
Mhm,
sounding
mhm.
episode for y'all that was going to be painful to your ears in some way, or
Yeah.
throw together this Q&A session. So thank you to everyone who sent in these questions.
Yeah, I mean, truly, if you wanna hear the original audio, DM me. I will send you Lamar sounding like a robot before he eventually disappears, which is what happened. So, anyway, but thanks for joining us despite our weird week this week. And this is I consider this still like a fan Jan selection, to be honest, because these are all your questions. So thanks for helping fan Jan carry on.
Yeah.
But before we get into them, what are we drinking? What are you drinking? I know you were
Well,
eating
we're
a second
doing
ago.
this
Are you drinking?
yeah, I just wrapped up lunch and it's a Saturday afternoon and I still have to exercise and shower and get to this party tonight. So I have things I have to accomplish after this. So I didn't want to
Weirdo.
get hammered. So I am not doing like a super sugary I'm just doing a plain old gin and tonic. But it is Empress gin, so it's got that florally
Ooh,
taste to it. Quite good. Yeah. What about you?
bougie. Yeah, I was feeling like Saturday afternoon super chill vibes. Like, what would I
Mm-hmm.
drink that's just easy and more my style, and it's not on any particular theme. So I have a Yingling amber beer. That's my favorite kind of beer. In case anybody's curious, always ambers all the time. Too many fucking IPAs in this world. So yeah, I'm having an amber, which in of course our koozie, which again I have to find a way to use every episode. So that's what I'm doing.
Excellent choice.
Alrighty, well, we're gonna dig in because it's gonna be a quickie for you guys today. Like, it's not gonna be a full hour. We're just gonna blow through your questions, which again, thank you for submitting. We loved. They're super fun.
Mm-hmm.
But Lamar's gonna lead us through them because he has painstakingly created an order, and I'm excited. So hit me.
Painstakingly in like 6.5 minutes, and we are ready to go. So, question number one. Let's start with this, Mackenzie. What movie have you watched more than any other? If you had to guess, how many times have you watched that movie? And this comes to us from at the Labrie on Insta.
Thanks for the question, at Lee Labrie.
The Labrie, the
The
Labrie.
Labrie.
We don't want
Okay.
to send our followers to the
Oof.
wrong page.
Also, do we want to create stalkers for these people? I don't know. I don't
Yes,
know. I don't know.
they're
Okay,
gonna love
cool.
it.
Cool. Love it. Well, this was really hard for me because I feel like there are a handful of movies that I watch a lot and it's probably like kind of neck and neck.
Yeah.
So I have two that came to mind, may or may not be accurate. But the first one was The Princess Bride,
Yes.
which I watch incessantly. And I also make every person I know watch this with me. And like I've made multiple people go to the Alamo movie party with me for
Yeah.
this. And there are shockingly people who haven't seen this yet. What the fuck? So I make them watch it. Anyway, so I've seen it hundreds. I don't know, so
Wow.
many
You
times.
really you think
Like
you are you exaggerating or you literally think it's in the hundreds?
I think it's probably I would not be surprised if it was like yes, I was exaggerating. I would not be surprised if
Okay.
it was like over 50. You know what I mean? Like
Okay.
I think it's I've seen it so many times and I know literally every word, you know? So I think it's yeah, it's high. The other ones were like the Harry Potters because I watch those for a million reasons all the time, seasonally, for funsies, to feel good, to be a nerd, like, and again, introduce them to people, marathons, whatever. So dozens of times it feels like. So,
Spinning off of that, which of the Harry Potter films, not the books, which of the movies do you like the most if you had to pick one to watch at any given time?
well, I
This
don't
question
know.
comes from at Lemar on the podcast.
I think gut check as you said that, I feel like I would need to analyze this further, but gut check as you said it, the first one that popped into my head was Goblet of Fire.
Okay. That's the one where Harry puts his name into the Goblet of Fire, I believe?
Yes, and he, like,
Okay.
it participates in the Triwizard Tournament when he's, like, way underage, and, I thought it was a really good adaptation of the book, and that book for the longest time, if not still, was my favorite book of the
Mhm.
series, so I think that's probably why. Some of the later ones are really good, but they make some very upsetting decisions in the later ones as far as how they adapt it, so, yeah, I think I'd probably go with Goblet of Fire.
Okay. That's yeah,
Yeah.
I only watched him through once, but I do remember liking that one. You get some
Mm.
Robert Pattinson in there too.
Yeah, yeah, and, like, just and he actually I mean, is it bad if I spoil this? Whatever, it's really old. He actually dies in that one. That's the one where he
Mhm.
dies in it, and it's, like, really rough, but they do such a good job, like, the acting of that is all incredible. Anyway, so yeah, what are yours?
This was an interesting question as well for me because I'm sitting here thinking of the movies you watch as a kid and you think you watched your favorite
A
movies as a kid,
million
you assume
times.
you watched them a million times, but really I was thinking of that and just I don't think I did. You know, I had favorite movies when I was a child and like different Disney films and live action
Yeah,
stuff, but I don't think I didn't continue obviously watching them throughout my life. I think as an adult, it would come down to two schools of logic. I know in the last 5 to 10 years, I've probably watched Scott Pilgrim versus the World more times than anything else.
really?
It's such a fun film, and what you said struck a chord with me where if somebody comes over and they're like, "Oh, I've never seen that movie." I'm like, "We're watching this
What
now."
do you
So
put it on what do you put on? Yeah.
I'm always down to rewatch it. I did a movie party of my own in my living room for my birthday last year for
Yeah.
that film and bought props and stuff. So
Yeah.
probably that one. The second school of logic would be Rocky Horror Picture Show because I think I've watched that almost every year around Halloween time and
Mm,
maybe one or two in between for the last 20 years. So that
yeah.
one's probably up there as well, but I think Scott Pilgrim I'm probably coming up on 30 to 40 watches of that one.
Wow. I feel like you actually put real thought into the number estimate, and I super did not do that
You're
part.
like literally hundreds.
Literally
Literally.
hundreds, but also not literally hundreds because I don't like math. But yeah, no, that I mean, I could see that. I remember you talking about it a couple of times too, so that's cool. That's a good one. That's a good choice. I get it.
Thank you. Thank you. How about this one? Let's go a little zany on the second question. This comes to us from Janelephant. I wonder who that is. She sounds
No
cute.
idea, literally no idea who that could be.
Y- You have to swap out one member of the Fast and Furious franchise with a Marvel character. Who is it?
Oh my god, this was really hard, but also an incredible question. And,
Yes.
I think this was I have a list, like, kind of in order
Mhm.
of importance. I narrowed this down to 3 options, which was Groot for Vin Diesel, which
Well, his name
felt
is Dom. His name is Dom.
Vin Diesel's character, Dom, correct,
There
Dom
you go.
Toretto. Don't think I don't know what we're talking about here. I'm a car nut. I've seen every one of these fuckers. Uh, no, yeah, Groot for Dom Toretto is
That
I
was
thought
where I went. I think that's the
yeah.
most logical, right?
It is. He plays both, but, like, let's see how it swabs out, you know what I mean? Like, I have
And
questions. I wanna see how that would play out.
And my thought was, well, like maybe Groot's dialogue is going to be too repetitive for a different series. But let's be real,
But how
Dom's
different
dialogue
is
is
it?
super fucking repetitive. So who cares?
Exactly. He says the same things every movie, right? Like, it's
Yeah.
not different. So, yeah, I think that's a great choice. Another one that I thought would be kind of funny would be the Hulk, AKA Bruce Banner for
Mm-hmm.
Dom Toretto also, especially the Bruce Banner bit, actually, because I thought it would be really funny if we turned a Dom into, like, a nerdy scientist guy. Like, how would that translate in this context? It feels like it would turn into a very different movie. So I thought that would be just kind of a
I
fun
don't
one
think
to
they
play
would
with.
ever win if you had Dom as the main scientist on the Avengers. They'd
Pro
lose.
Probably not, for sure, they would totally lose. Bruce Banner was a pretty key character, from a scientific standpoint, so we'd be fucked. There'd be no more universe. But it was, it was entertaining nonetheless to think it through. Okay, but also this I don't really have an exact exchange here, so this is kind of a weird one, but I feel like Loki should be involved to some degree. Like,
Ooh.
I don't know where to put him. I actually went through literally the entire Fast and the Furious cast when I was thinking
Mm-hmm.
about this because I was like, there's gotta be somewhere to put him. He's, Norse god of mischief, literally. So I was like, this is the perfect place for Loki to go somewhere. but I couldn't figure out who to swap. But I will say I would love to see a Loki moment in the Fast and the Furious. I feel like that could be fun.
That would be pretty cool. He's a schemer, so he could make like a good villain or eventually join the good
Mhm.
guys like every character does in the Fast and the Furious.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like that's his whole vibe. So, yeah, I think he could plug in a fun and interesting way for sure.
The last thing that I thought would be funny with Vin Diesel joining the Marvel universe is, he has that like height insecurity where he always wants to be
Yeah.
portrayed as the same height as like his fellow cast members. I'm
Mhm.
imagining like him telling them the Hulk has to be like 8 feet standing behind me in every
Yeah.
frame, CGI'd so that I look the same height as the Hulk. I just imagine him being terrible on this
I
set,
have to be Hulk level height. Yeah, 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 for sure. No,
And I mean,
100%.
am I wrong? Because he plays Groot. He's like, I want to play the tallest
The
character that you
dumbest
have,
character.
Marvel.
But then he also becomes the smallest character at certain moments, and
This
I
is true.
I
This
love
is
that for him,
true.
though. I think
Yeah,
that's
there's a
funny.
little hole in my theory. It's a good thing
Well,
that they couldn't get the rights to
I
Galactus.
feel
Maybe
like
he'll end up playing Galactus.
I feel like he's cool with being either one, you know what I mean? Like, purposely really short where you know it's not real, right?
Hmm.
Or super tall, but that, like, average height is not his vibe, you know?
Awesome. So let's move to a more serious one. And this one I'm really curious to pick your brain about. So from at just tabs on Insta, what's a current movie within the last 5 years that you think will become timeless and why?
Okay, so this was really hard, and if you think I don't have a
Hmm.
list of 6 movies right now and probably growing, then you would be
Yeah.
wrong. Um, it's very timely and it feels like a cop out, but I think it's very relevant right now, so I started with Barbie. I do think
Yes.
that that will become very timeless. It's so funny, I wanna, like, maybe find the post and share it on our Insta, but there was, like, an Upworthy post of a guy who got a text from his dad about Barbie, like, after seeing Barbie,
Hmm.
and
I
it's
remember
this
that.
whole thesis, yeah, about, like, pre-Barbie world and post-Barbie world, right? Of just, like, after this movie existed, the world is different. It created a completely different conversation,
Yeah.
in I think an incredible way in all kinds of ways. And just as a woman, it's really amazing to finally see some of these things be said, and in such a creative way and a fun way too. It doesn't like hit you over the head with it and make it dark and twisty the whole time, but it makes you think about it. And so I just think it's a beautifully handled film in, what I hope is, the future for women, right? To really be equal in this unfortunately very patriarchal world that we've been brought up in. So I think it's a beautiful potential classic. I have several others that I'll just rattle off and I won't go deep dive into, but Encanto was one. I would have said
Hmm.
Coco because I love Coco and I think that's a classic, but it did not fall in the last 5 years, so I stuck to the rules.
Okay.
Um, La La Land, I think, is a beautiful film and kind of a classic feel good, especially from a music, like bittersweet but beautiful. West Side Story, the remake, because I think that really took that story and modernized it in a key way, even around language, right? Like the Spanish in that film was just as important as the English. I think that was a
Hmm.
big moment in these films as well. And then Everything Everywhere All at Once was, just such an impactful film. Like, it feels like that resonated with everyone, and it was wildly creative and beautifully done and performed, and the effects and everything as well. And I thought that was just, like, the height of potentially being a real future classic or something that everyone sees at some point, definitely. And then I think the last one that I was kinda had a question mark about, but I think there's an argument to be made for was Jojo Rabbit. Taika Waititi, like, showing
Yeah,
words.
that one I thought was gonna be more prevalent over the last few years, but it
Yeah.
feels like it's sort of had its year and then it sort of faded out a little bit. I don't hear as much chatter about it from, like, people,
Yeah.
"Okay, what are," like, it's not in my top 10 favorite films, but it's, I think, also a very sad watch for
Yeah.
as adorable as it is at times. It's pretty much a
Yeah.
downer of a film, so that might be why.
I feel like it's really funny though too. So, like, that's where I struggle with it is, like, it is a kind of a it's definitely to your point, it's like a rough topic and it ends,
Mhm.
there's very sad moments, and I'm not gonna spoil it because it is a more recent film, but there are some sad moments, but overall, this what could be a really only heavy or difficult topic is handled in this really funny, creative way that I think, again, is more like Taika Waititi's style that is, I think, becoming a classic, I think is more what I mean. Like, that's he has kind of shifted the way we tell some of those types of stories, and that was one of the earlier ones to do it, I think, and,
Yeah.
And everyone I talk to about it, once they see it, feels really strongly about it as well. They're like, "Oh my god, that was an incredible movie." So,
Yeah.
I don't know,
Yeah.
maybe it'll build, maybe it won't.
Yeah, we'll see. On my end, I had Everything Everywhere All at Once was where my mind went immediately.
Yeah.
Just total agreement with you of it's the incredible visuals. It's a unique story. It was,
Mhm.
right on the cusp, I think, of when Marvel started to think about incorporating the multiverse into their films. So this was kind of and it's a different way of doing that, but I think it kind of gets lost a little bit because of what Marvel was doing around the same time. But it ties in such an incredibly emotional story of this
Mhm.
family and just something we can, I think, all relate to, of
Yeah.
just growing older and trying to. I think your parents want you to live a better life than them, but they don't want you to completely pull away. I think it's something that, maybe hopefully it's not just me that relates to that. I assume not, since it did so well. But
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a little bit of they want you to hold on to your history, your family, your culture, whatever that looks like, your roots to some degree. Remember what that's like. Remember the challenges probably of those before you, but
mhm.
also, you know, live a different life and have new opportunity. I mean, I think most parents want that for their children, right? For you to have a better life and yeah, I think it tells that story very well in a beautiful way.
Yeah, I think it's also a story about gratitude of,
Mhm.
there's a million possibilities out there of where your life could have gone if you had
Right.
if done things differently.
Mhm.
But learning to just be grateful for what you do have and the people that care about you. So making the most of it. Honorable mention would be my only fear here is I think it's going to become sort of the first to do this, but it's probably going to seem run of the mill in 20 years is
Mm.
Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
Oh,
I
yeah,
think,
I agree.
it's doing to modern animation what Toy Story did in the 90s, but nowadays like
Mhm.
people still love Toy Story,
Of
but
course.
you forget that that was the first one
The
to do
first
that
one.
style. And I think Spider-Verse is a current classic. I just worry that in 10 years time a lot of people are going to be sort of aping that style.
Yeah, that we won't appreciate it the same way
Right.
as well, I think. I mean, even the new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which we have talked about off mic, is a similar vibe, but I actually think
Mhm.
it did it in a really good, unique way, but it is because, Spider-Verse walked that Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles remake could run, you know? I think
Yes.
I think
Yeah.
that's very true for sure.
Yeah. Agreed. All right. So from at Pembertonia, what was your favorite movie as a kid and how has that changed as you grew up?
Okay, so this was hard because for a quick second I was like, well, like, how kid are we talking? Was my original reaction. I was
Mhm.
like, are we talking 5? Are we talking, 15? What are we talking as far as a kid? But I just went with like my gut of what I remember my first favorite movie being,
Yeah.
um, which was definitely The Little Mermaid. Much to the
You and
chagrin
my sister both. Yeah.
yeah, like, much to the chagrin of my entire family, right? Of just like, "Are you kidding me? We wanna watch this again? There's no
You know what?
way."
I'm changing my answer from a couple questions ago. The movie that I've seen the most times because of my sister is probably The Little
Is The
Mermaid.
Little
So I
Mermaid.
did not watch it by choice, but
Oh, yeah, you were I mean, I think that's true of anybody who had a sibling, a sister who was obsessed with that movie. My sister was also obsessed with that movie before me, so my parents, my poor, poor parents had to, like, go through that phase with both of us. So poor, poor people, but I think that is one, but then the next one I thought of was Matilda, like, also a very when
okay.
I was
Yeah,
very
yeah,
young, I
yeah.
loved Matilda, and I was like my first thought was, "That hasn't really changed. That movie is still so fucking good.
Mhm.
I still wanna be her when I grow up. I still want magical powers." Like, I see myself as a Matilda, like, big fat nerd, and I'm just waiting for my powers to show up. You know what I mean? I mean, Harry Potter's the same way for me, right? Like, I'm just waiting for my Hogwarts letter. Like, I this is what I want for my life.
Oh, that's good. I'm gonna go with the first one that sprung to my mind was a movie called The Sandlot.
Oh, I
And
love The
what's
Sandlot.
changed as I grew up? Not a fucking thing.
Not
I
a
will
fucking
still
thing.
watch that. I feel like it's just a quintessential. Maybe it speaks mostly to young boys, but I could see how, young girls
Mm-mm.
could also watch
Mhm.
that and enjoy it. But it just reminds me, it just gives me this nostalgia of a time when you were a kid and it's like all you
Yeah.
needed was a place to play and a ball of some kind, whether you're playing soccer or baseball or basketball. You could just go outside with your friends and like everything was so much easier back then. So it's like as an adult, I think looking back and watching that, you're just like, oh man, those are some
The
good times.
nostalgia is real, yeah, for
Yeah.
sure, in so many ways. I love that movie, by the way, for the record. I mean, I think that's
Hmm.
an excellent choice, and yeah, I don't know if I had a lot of girlfriends who were into it, to your point, but well, one, I just, like, genuinely just had a lot of boy neighbors when I was a kid, so I feel like
Hmm.
I don't really can't really tell, but yeah, I loved that movie. I mean, I was a young tomboy, but I loved that movie as well.
Very cool. All right, let's do a toughie here. I'm gonna make you think long and
Damn it.
hard. What are your desert island movies? So if you could only watch 3 films for the rest of your life, which ones would you watch? And we're getting to the point where we're gonna start repeating the people who submitted these questions. So I'm just
Yeah,
gonna make up names to make it seem like we had more people
that we had more
participate here.
fans because we
So
only
this
have
one comes
3.
from Johnny Thunderpants. So
Yeah.
go ahead and answer that question, Mackenzie, from Johnny.
Okay, but Johnny did not include the 3 part that I recall. Was there I don't feel like I got that direction
I
when I
knew I had to
created
put
this
you on a
list.
limit. I had to put you on a limit because you were gonna be like, I have 50 desert island
73
movies, like you did in
movies.
the Halloween episode. And we were like top 10, and you were like, here's 100 movies I like.
Or 2 seconds ago when I was asked what my other ones
Yeah.
were. Yeah,
What's
no.
one timeless movie? You're like, here's 8.
Here's 17 of them. Oh god, I'm the worst. I'm sorry. Yeah, no, so I definitely have for this list 6, so now I have to literally half it.
Gut check.
So yeah, I'm gonna gut check it on the fly. Fuck, this is hard. Okay. I'm doing this in real time, guys. I apologize. Uh, All About Eve. It's definitely one. That's
Okay.
maybe my favorite film of all time.
Mm.
And it's a black and white film. If you haven't seen it, check it out. It's beautiful. The writing back then, the writing of it all. So that's one. Princess Bride. I think
Yes.
that's gotta
Covered
happen.
that.
I cannot have that not on the island. Can we say a series is one?
No.
God
That's not
damn
how
it.
this works.
Motherfuckers. See, this is not fair. I can't get a list in a limit in real time. Okay. Last one. Mm. Okay. Fuck.
I
His Girl
wish you guys
Friday.
could see the pain on
The
her face
the
right now,
pain on
y'all.
my
She is
face.
This is torture for her to have to pick 3 movies that she doesn't want on this list.
It was already hard enough to get to 6, and one of them was a series, okay? This was very difficult. Okay,
But
so I
also part like on you a little bit because no one ever anytime you play Desert Island, no one picks the number 6. It's either 5 or 3 or 10. Why would 6 be the number?
because I wanted to see if I could eke in the series is what it was. It was like the
Okay,
series was the last
fair.
little one of like, can I throw
All
this
right,
series
all
in?
right.
But yes, I started with 5. I was like, what is your top 5 was my initial thought. So anyway, but yes, as my third, because I have, the pressure is on, I'm going to go His Girl Friday, which is, again, an older black and white film if you haven't seen it, but the writing and the witty repartee, like it is phenomenal.
Okay. Do you tend to I feel like we've spoken in the past. Do you tend to sort of skew toward the more classic films as somebody who sort of not a lot of people have gone that far back and watched those
Yeah.
films. So at any given moment, are you more leaning that way toward your preference?
Not necessarily, but I have a very healthy obsession with classic film. Yeah. I mean, I don't know
Mhm.
that like that's my genre specifically. I think I'm a pretty diverse film watcher and film fan, but I have a very healthy respect for classic film, but also anything with really good writing.
Yeah.
Like I love action flicks. Like, do not get me wrong. I am a sucker for a Marvel movie and a Knight's Tale, like these fun action flicks. But I love when it's creatively done and it's well written and it's witty and and that can be a modern film. A couple I have on this list later. But it can also be a classic film where I just think you weren't able to depend on effects and things that were going to augment your story. Your story had to be solid, had to be
Right.
fire. And so I have a very healthy respect for classic film in that regard because the writing, generally speaking, is significantly better than a lot of the kind of more average movies you see today.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, I was curious about that. For me, this was interesting because even though I said I've watched Scott Pilgrim versus the World probably more than any other film, I don't think it would make it to my desert because this is not necessarily my top 3 favorite movies. It's the movies that I want to watch, over and
Yeah.
over and over again. And so even though Scott Pilgrim might be like my second favorite movie, it's not going to make this list. I also wanted a little bit of variety, so who knows? Maybe I'm lying. But I would start with the movie Snatch from Guy Ritchie. I
Ooh,
think that that
fun.
is because I almost picked a Tarantino movie because they're just unique, and so,
Yeah.
I can rewatch Pulp Fiction and
Yeah.
Reservoir Dogs and a few others, but this is a more fun version of that. There's a lot more laughs, I feel like, in
Mhm.
Snatch. I think the character maybe just because it's British, it's a little more
Yeah, it's
zany.
fun. It's fun.
Yeah.
I feel like anything Guy Ritchie you can pretty healthily rewatch a few times because there's a lot
Mhm.
to pick up. Again, like those are pretty witty films, generally speaking, and they move quickly and they're aesthetically very pleasing, always, or at least interesting. Maybe not pleasing, but always interesting. More recently, very pleasing to the eye, but very interesting looking as well. Yeah, I think those are
Yeah.
awesome choices.
Shaun of the Dead would probably be one because I love zombie films, and so to have a movie that is a comedy horror where I get my zombie fix, but I get all these homages to classic zombie films, but I also get to laugh, and it's very light for the most part. So I think Shaun of the Dead would be my second, and
Mhm.
then
Mhm.
my last one, for the sake of having one that's a more classic, just great film, a great piece of cinema, a lot of people might not agree with this, but I think my favorite Scorsese movie is The Departed. And I love The Departed because I just think it's so well
Yeah.
cast. Every single person in the movie is perfect for their role.
Yeah.
And it's just this gritty, it's 2+ hours long, but it doesn't feel like that to me. And it just keeps
Yeah,
me on
it
the edge of my
doesn't.
seat. So I think I thought of this more as the sake of variety and also the
Mhm.
movies that I can have in a rotation and not get super tired of after a while.
If I had to narrow a little more, I maybe would make different choices, like, to
Mhm.
with that in mind,
Yeah.
but yeah, yeah, I think those are really good diverse choices because I agree, you can't it's hard to watch the same style of something over and over as well, so I think those are great.
Mhm.
I love The Departed too, it's such a to your point, excellent film, excellently cast, performed, and no, it doesn't feel as long as it is, for sure.
Right. Yeah. Cool. All right, next up. What movie let's get emotional. What movie will never not make you cry? And this is from Abigail Serskinchuk. We love you,
You guys
Abigail.
should see his face, the pain of having to make up these names in real time,
It's
it's my
harder than you
favorite.
would think. I could literally say anything, but it's so hard to think
You
of a
could have been
real
like
name without.
Abigail Smith and, and you popped out Sunshine, whatever.
Well, I don't
Oh,
wanna pick a common name because then somebody on Instagram, if they hear this, they're like, "I didn't fucking say that," and then we get sued. That's how it works, right? I don't
yeah.
know. I'm not.
That's exactly how it works. Totally true. Okay, never not make you cry. So I have I have a few answers to this. Um, my first one is you're gonna laugh at me so hard I can't even get through
Oh,
this.
jeez.
Um, Lilo and Stitch.
Oh,
Like
no, I think that's a solid choice. I'm not gonna laugh about that.
I say that because I'm not a big movie crier, actually. I'm really not. And but the saddest scene in that is like him in the rain in the woods by himself,
Mhm.
like talking about Ohana and Ohana means family, and he's looking at the little duck and it's like, oh my God, every time. And I did see that in theaters and I did tear up in the theater. And yeah, that like still fucks me, man, every time I see that scene. And I love that movie. I love, love, love that movie. And, no, that'll fuck me up every time for sure. Anything with an animal that it gets getting hurt,
Yeah.
is hurt,
Yeah.
like, I know Stitch was animated or whatever, but similar vibes, like, anything with an animal will make me cry, anything where, like, a owner has to, like, send their animal away to protect them, but is mean to them, all those kinds of things
Mhm.
are horrendous to me. Those are very, very heartbreaking, but, in a more, like, really sincere emotional way, I think, The Father with Anthony Hopkins
I still
really
haven't
got
seen
me.
that. That came out a few years ago, right?
Yeah, that one really, really got me. Like, I was explaining to Skylar when I was going through these questions, and I was, like, tearing up explaining it to him.
Mhm.
That's how emotional that movie makes me. And his follow-up question for us, so I'll add this as a part 2 for you, was, have you ever just bawled in a theater? And that was the one. Like, that was the one where I'm,
Yeah.
like, tears are streaming down my face in the middle of the
Mhm.
theater. That was oh god, it was rough. It was rough.
Okay. Alright. So, The Father, you said.
The
That's the
Father
one
with
that got
Anthony
you bawling?
which is incredible, incredible, but if you have any sensitivity around dementia for, like, familial or emotional
Mm.
reasons, that is a very, very difficult watch. Very, very difficult. So just trigger warning.
Okay. Well, thank you for that. I'm gonna have to check that out. Also, spinning semi off of that, I think for me, there's happy crying and sad crying, and I think Coco will never not make
Oh
me
my
sort
god,
of
yeah.
happy heart feels cry at the
Mhm.
very end when he's singing to his abuelita.
Oh my god, oh my god.
Just to that point of watching the people you love grow old. But I love the message in that. Of I have such I guess respect's not even the right word, just more of a fascination with Mexican culture and like anything that sort of has that reverence for the dead and
Yeah.
like that belief that we continue to carry our loved ones with us after we die. I didn't know we were gonna get this deep today. Shit.
I know, we're gonna
But
start crying because, like, I'm thinking of my abuelita, and that
yeah,
is what that movie makes me think of every time, and I saw it in theaters twice, and I cried both times, like,
yeah,
it's beautiful, and it's a little heartrending as well.
yeah. It gets me for sure. Another one that sort of ties to that. And this one, not I don't know that a lot of people haven't seen this, but maybe it doesn't hit them the same. Is a movie called 50-50 with Joseph
Oh,
Gordon-Levitt.
oh, yeah, yeah, no, that is a little that's unexpected. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah,
yeah.
that one is mostly a comedy. I mean, he
Mhm,
does, the plot of
mhm.
the film, not gonna spoil anything. The plot of the film is he's a young guy diagnosed with a rare cancer and has a 50-50 chance of surviving the surgery, and it's
Right.
just him dealing with that, and he's
Yeah.
such a positive person that he doesn't want to sort of accept
Give
that he
into
could
it,
die,
yeah.
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 But yeah, not to give much away, but his relationship with his mom reminds me of me and my mom, and probably a lot of people of just protective mothers who care for you and just want to do everything. And throughout the movie, she's coming off as sort of pestering because she's concerned about him.
Right,
But
right.
and God, come to think of it, there's dementia in that film
Yep,
as well because his
yep.
father and she has to take care of him. So yeah, I think there's a common theme here of like thinking
Yeah,
about our parents and our grandparents makes
yeah.
us cry. But the very last one that my initial answer, and this is for a totally different reason, is Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. That
Mm,
one gets me only at specific moments, but
mhm.
it's just this thought of we've all been through rough breakups and we get so focused on all the negative things and the things that we didn't like by the end that we forget about all the positives. So
Yeah,
watching this person sort of see those moments of how it started and all the good times and wanting to hang on to those memories. It's very touching and it does hit me a lot. And I like the message at the end as well of sort of
right.
how they end up. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think those are completely valid choices. Yeah, and I think there is a common theme there. Still Alice is another one that comes to mind around the dementia of it all, and that's a woman
Mhm.
with early onset Alzheimer's, very young, like in her 40s.
Yeah.
And that's also same thing. It's just very, very hard to watch that. I think that, like, really just getting super deep really quick as a person, that's the thing that's the most terrifying to me as a person, and maybe that's another part of it of losing your connection to yourself and your touchstone for reality, right? For me is super
Yeah.
terrifying. And actually segues really well into another one of our questions
Okay.
about what movies have fucked you up. So I don't know if that was next for you, but it feels like a good
Yeah.
option.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Yeah, it's what was the phrase that they said?
So I think that you can interpret it multiple ways. It
Okay.
says movie that scared you or fucked you up the most. So you
Okay.
could go the fear route or you could
Yeah.
go emotional. Yeah.
Mine was like, it fucks you up, I guess, is what I honed in on that part
Mhm.
of that question, and I had a couple, 2 specifically, that literally, like, immediately popped into my mind, and
Mhm.
not in a dementia sense, but it's a similar reasoning for me of, 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Okay.
I know that's a weird choice, I will explain. Stargate also, which is, like, kind of a
Sensing a
deep
theme
cut.
here. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of a deep cut, and it's stuff that, I don't think a lot of people have seen Stargate the movie. A lot of people saw the series.
Mhm.
But the original movie, as I recall, both of these have they're all related to space. And I actually love space. I'm a NASA nerd, like sign me up. But space is also super fucking scary. Like, we
Yeah.
don't fully understand it. Weird shit can happen, you know? And I think what happens in A Space Odyssey, where the reverse aging moment and being
Mhm.
completely disconnected from yourself and having no control and also like safety in that sense of like, I'm literally reverse aging. How do I care for myself? How do I survive this? Like, these kinds of things. That
Yeah.
super freaks me out. And I saw that really young too, as the other thing. Like, I saw that before these concepts are something you can process. You know what I mean? I think I was
Yeah.
like 10. or something. Like I was really fucked up by that movie, I remember. And then Stargate, the same thing, where like you are actually going through different spatial realms, and there is literally a gate, it's called Stargate, that you go through that can open and close, but it can lock, right? And so like you can't get back to your home, and that's kind of the part of the premise of this
Mm.
story, is that you can go through this gate, but can you get back? And that fucked me up real bad, of like, again, not having a touch point, a tether, a like control over how do I get home, take care of myself, be safe, whatever. And like that's just, yeah, very rooted in my own needs of safety and resilience and resourcefulness and being able to like take care of myself. And those both at a young age I saw, and I was like, what do you do? How do you deal with this? Like this is terrifying. So yeah, those super fucked me up at a young age.
Okay. Those are really like deep thought, kind of the complexities of the human body and spirit.
I mean,
Uh,
did you expect anything different from me? Like, I overthink everything. You're welcome,
no,
people.
but mine is too. Mine is Anaconda with the big snake. No, I'm just kidding. It's not. But I
That's
went
a
the
valid
opposite.
fear.
Yeah, I went the opposite route. I went with more just fucked up as in scared.
Yeah.
And for me, and I think we might have talked about this on the Halloween episode, I think the scary movie that hit me the hardest, because I watched a lot of horror when I was a kid, and I do remember being very scared. Normally I would watch a scary movie and I'd have nightmares for like 2 nights, and then I'd be fine. But whenever something new is sort of introduced into the realm of horror, it sort of hits different.
Mm-hmm.
I think Paranormal Activity, the very first one, just because I had been living on my own at that point, in my own
Mm,
apartment, and it's that movie, the way that it slowly builds up and it just starts as sort of little noises in the night or little footsteps. The
mm-hmm.
sound in that movie is really well done. And eventually it plays out with like demon possession and all this crazy shit. That doesn't really get me. But the simple stuff at the beginning, because everyone, when they're sleeping, will hear a little bump in the night type of
Right,
sound, or
right,
you'll hear something like, what the fuck was that? So for me, living alone at that time, that one was stuck with me for probably a couple weeks of like waking up in the middle of the night and being like, what was that? Something like moving or something shifting, and it's just the foundation of the building or something like that. But yeah, I'd say
right.
Paranormal Activity got me good.
Yeah, and I think, well, one, I think that's a super valid choice. Two, I think I don't have things like that because I just don't find scary movies scary. Not in that way. I find the stuff that like I say scary in quotes. You guys can't see scary movies scary, um, but it's because I find the things that fuck with your head scarier than a jump
Yeah.
scare, than those kinds of things. And so yeah, any movie that will like be a psychological thriller or
Hmm.
turn that on its head, that freaks me out. Faux show.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's try to get like one more in. You good with that? And then we'll
Yeah,
call
I
it.
think so. I think I want to honorable mention a question that we can't talk about because I have no idea how to talk about it, which was the Street Fighter question. Thank you so much for asking us to discuss this film. I have never seen it and I have nothing to offer. Thank you so much.
I saw it when I was very young, and I know who sent this, and I know why because it is one of those movies that's like a so bad it's good. It is just cheesy 90s schlock. But I think maybe you and I should do a rewatch and make that, somewhere down the line,
Yeah,
one of the films we talk about.
I love it. All right. Well, great suggestion. What was the last one? What do we want to wrap it up
So
with?
this one I wanted to ask for your sake because I know that you tend to dive deep when we go into sort of historical films.
Yes.
So do you have a favorite movie about a historical event? This one comes to us from Kristen Collingswood. We have so many
Thanks.
fans.
Thanks, Kristen. What a great question.
What a great name.
I'm so glad that you chose that one. And just so y'all know, we're coming up on time, so we had to narrow the focus. But favorite movie about a historical event? Yes, love. Thank you so much for asking this. I have a list of 7. So I
Jesus Christ.
don't worry, I'm not going to go into them because we literally actually it's 8. We literally don't have time. But I will go with a very recent one if you want to hear the rest, or maybe I'll share them on the Instas so you can go check them out because there are a bunch of really good ones on this list actually. But if I had to pick my top favorite of this list, I'd go probably 1917, which is a
Ooh.
World War One film directed by Sam Mendes, and the DP on that is Roger Deakins, and it is one of the most incredibly shot films I have ever seen, and if you don't already know this about this film, it's a single shot. And that is, I mean, you have to watch it to fully understand what I'm saying about what a feat
Yeah.
that truly is. Have you seen it, Lamar?
Yeah, there's a
Okay.
reason that Mackenzie mentioned the DP on this film because the
It's
visuals of this, the cinematography is just incredible.
insane. And I mean, we're talking like shots overnight and how they evolve and how you
Mhm,
follow a
mhm.
person and how you follow, this is a war. Like you follow the physical damage of something. You follow somebody even just simple as like going through the woods and in the trenches, of course. Like this is an intense, incredible, beautifully shot film. And I mean, and to say nothing of the performances, right? Like the performances are also excellent. The story is, of course, a painful but timeless
Yeah.
historical event, and this is one of the bloodiest events in our global history, and they just did it so much justice. I can't say enough about it. It's an incredible film. I have, again, several others I could recommend, but if I had to pick one, probably that one. And again, I think it's the feat of how it was shot that is bananas and
Mhm.
beautiful to me. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great choice. I know, correct me if I'm wrong, it's not they didn't literally shoot it in one shot, but it's designed to feel like a one shot where it just sort of
So
segues from scene to scene.
So it has a physical one shot throughout each scene. So like
Yes,
every
okay.
scene is a full shot, and it's kind of hard to describe. Maybe we'll post a little something on it that makes it a little bit more clear, but it is an incredible feat of cinematography, and the fact that it has this such a seamless flow. The way
Mhm.
that they did it is, I mean, I don't know how they did it. You know what I mean? I've read
Yeah.
about it, I've researched it, and I still don't fully understand transparently.
Yeah,
Like it's
it's never noticeable.
yeah,
You get lost, and it's not like it reminds me totally different film. It reminds me a little bit of Birdman, but that had very clear like we're segueing from scene to scene, but we're not in the same location. We are not.
100%.
It's not the same characters, but it feels that way. This one, you know that it's not the same, but it never takes you out of it. You are just on this roller coaster ride nonstop for the length
Yeah,
of this movie.
100%. I think it's a really good one. So
Yeah.
what was yours?
Passion of the Christ, probably.
Okay, wait, is that real?
I'm just,
I'm
you're
like,
like, I don't
I
want to
have
judge.
so many feelings
Oh,
about that, and I need to know where to send them. Which
oh my
way am I
gosh.
going?
I don't know. I don't know if my mom's gonna listen to this episode, but she's gonna love the very sweet thing I said about her earlier. She's gonna hate it if she makes it this far and hears me say that. But no,
What's
not
your
that
mom's
one.
name?
Donna
Donna,
Ortiz.
turn around, don't drown.
She's a saint. Um, but yeah, I don't know that I have a favorite, honestly. I'm not big on historical films, whether they're historical fiction or not.
Mhm.
I guess
I think you are more
if
than you think you are, but anyway, continue.
fair, I think that if I had to pick one to sit down and watch again, because very rarely do I go back and rewatch them, maybe Saving Private Ryan. I feel like that's a cop out just because it's so well known, but like that's the one
It's a
that
really
springs to
good film though. I
mind.
mean, it's a classic for a reason, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, I totally respect that. But I think just really quick before we move on, I think people think of historical films as these huge historical moments, right? Like a
Mm-hmm.
war moment, an election moment, like whatever, something that comes to mind is a World War One, a World War II, a Revolutionary War. Like these kinds of
Yeah.
things are what come to mind as historical films, but they can, like, true events, of course, run the gamut. And I count
Yeah.
those, of course, as a historical film. Like Steve Jobs is a historical film. Ford versus Ferrari is a historical film. Valkyrie is a historical film. Hidden Figures, Milk, like these are all ones on my list,
Okay.
and they're all real true events. Is the point, and so they are historical films. And that's why I say I think a lot of people like historical films more than they realize because they're not putting them in that genre in their head. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that's accurate. I think I thought of this just from that perspective of like, what's my favorite war film as opposed
Right.
to historical events. So yeah, I'd have to noodle on it a little bit more. So I don't really have an answer off the top of my head. But yeah, I think you're right. I think I probably like more than I'm letting on.
But I think the Saving Private Ryan, honestly, is an excellent choice either way. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Again, it is a classic for a reason, and it's beautifully acted and it's poignant and it's historical in a human way.
Yeah.
It connects you with a specific character and characters that move you through the story in a really poignant way. So I think it's a great choice.
Also, does it count if like the characters in it are totally fictionalized because it's taking place in a historical event, but like this, I think
I
it's
think so. I
semi-based on a
think
true
so because
story?
it's, because this story, yeah, these kinds of stories, I think something like them in a lot of these cases exists. You know what I mean? It's
Okay.
like it's been fictionalized to a degree, but things like this happened, in these various historical films, I mean.
Okay, well, if that's the case, then I pick Inglorious Bastards instead. Because same war, all's fair. You just said I can pick that, so that's what I'm
Yep,
gonna go
my
with.
bad. I gave him the green light, y'all. He went the other way with it. Okay, but in all seriousness, this was super fun.
Yeah, we should do
I
this
think we
again.
should, yeah, we should do this again. I think we should have a part 2, part 3, whatever. We should do this on a recurring basis. Tell us if you feel the same, because you will hear this and let us know in a couple days probably.
Yeah.
But also come back next week or in a couple days now for the A Knight's Tale
Part
2.0.
two.
Because
Yeah.
our bad. But anyway, we did do it
Yeah.
again. It is ready. We love you. You will hear it in a minute.
Yeah, we
Um,
appreciate everyone's patience. It's been 10 days since the last step or so, but you're going to have a short wait this time, only a few days, and you'll get
yeah.
another episode. Yeah.
So really, I think it worked out best for us all. But yeah, thanks for listening. But for now, go have a drink and watch a thing. Cheers.
Cheers.